Hello and welcome to our final section on the Enneagram called Created to Connect. This is a wonderful tool that we've used, the Enneagram that is, to help us focus on our self-discovery of who we are, or at least part of who we are, and working towards relational health. Today we're going to be talking about the wholeness that the Enneagram can point us to. This is an area that I've been doing some original work and trying to make it so that the Enneagram can be more than just self-reflective, but also help in our connectedness with other people. And so I'm really excited to do this one with you today. My name is Nathan Whitaker. I am a coach for Preparing for Amazement, and this is our course. You'll see on your screen what we've been doing throughout this time. I started with, in this course, an introduction to the Enneagram as three key things: that the Enneagram is not a personality test, but rather a tool for self-discovery. I also talked about throughout the entirety, and we really emphasized this last time, that the Enneagram is not, our personality is not who we are. It is a tool that we use to get what we need in this life, to survive and thrive, but also to connect. And last time we talked about how that tool can be limited and how we need other people. That's the first two primary things. And the third one, of course, is the relational health. That the Enneagram is focused on relational health, of how we connect to each other. And several of the books two of the books that I've recommended focus on this aspect. As we've gone through the course so far, we started with the introduction, as I just said. Then we moved on into the triads, the types, the needs last time, and now the wholeness. If you haven't already, please pull out your Enneagram 1 sheet. We are going to be finishing that today, and that is going to be that little asterisk or arrow at the top of each point that help us, or each type rather, that kind of capture what the wholeness aspect of the Enneagram can be. Let's do a quick review, because I don't know when the last time you watched the videos were. But the Enneagram starts with the foundational concept of the triads. And the triads are the gut, the heart, and the head. These are the three triads of the Enneagram, and it's how we experience, see, and decide upon in this world. The gut triad has a background noise of anger. The heart triad has a background noise of shame, and the head triad has a background noise of fear. And these are kind of perpetual. There are things that are in the background that we don't really pay much attention to, but it is something that within that triad, each of those types struggle with quite regularly, whether implicitly or explicitly. And we talked about those triads. We also talked about the types and celebrated them. The types are wonderful. Even if it is a limiting tool, it is a robust and wonderful tool. And what we can do as human beings with personality is just phenomenal. It is amazing how creative and how adaptable and how changeable we are, but also how dependable and reliable and wonderful we are as human beings. And we need to celebrate those types. They help us get through our lives in a wonderful way. They touch on the core of who we are, but they also help us understand other people and how to connect with them. And then last time we talked about those needs, those things that are counterintuitive to what we think we need. As an example, as a 5, I think I need to know more, but actually what I need more than that is for myself and for others to come to me in those moments where I don't know and assure me that I am still capable, that I'm still who I am, lovable, wonderful as a person. And so the counterintuitive needs are the ways that our Enneagram meets its limitation, and how we, in community, can connect and help one another in those limitations. I'm going to suggest to you that wholeness is the true power of the Enneagram. And it's that this wholeness is an insistence of our being interconnected. So, or interdependent is another word. And there's like three ways that we kind of think about this word dependency. That's the first, that we are dependent on one another. We usually think of this as people who are children or people who have physical or mental limitations. They're dependent on other people. We think that the ideal is to be independent, to not need other people, or at least not significantly so. And in America, the American church especially, we think independence is what we're striving towards. But the Enneagram, I believe Scripture and much of our life experiences show that we are interdependent, that we are dependent on each other in a healthy, wonderful way. So we're going to explore how each type can live into that or lean into that interdependence, how we can live in community well, and how our personalities, when we are intentional about them, how they can be shaped and molded and directed towards this relational health that we have or that we want to have with other people. So we're going to go through the Enneagram one last time, each type, and we're going to start as we always do with type 8, the challenger or the leader. Oftentimes the leader believes that they lead in order to be strong, but in fact, when they lean into their tenderness, 8s start to lead as a way of loving others, being vulnerable to others, and allowing themselves to be loved for who they are behind their strength. So it's kind of this another cool little thing that happens in the Enneagram, that when you start to lean into what we actually need, lean into the limitations of our personality, that it starts to reinforce our personality tools, our strengths within our personality. So as we lean into, as 8s, that vulnerability and that tenderness, we start to realize that our strength helps us be loved by those around us. But it has to take that turn. It has to move around that need with other people. And so we lead as 8s to be loved and to love others. For 9s, and leaning into their autonomy, into leaning into who they are as more than their personalities, certainly, but as people who have their own desires and their own needs and their own voices, 9s start to recognize the power they have to motivate people to be who they want to be because they are already confident in who they are. So what happens with the 9 is as they lean into their autonomy, they transform their peacemaking into a strength-building thing with their community. And yes, it comes with peace, but it comes with depth, right? And they start to build deeply relationships with other people so that that conflict that they want to avoid so badly be overcome much easier, and are with people who they actually care about much more and can really develop that community together. For 1s, finally, in the gut triad, when they lean into forgiveness and especially lean into the world as a mess, 1s start to enjoy life for its perfection and its reality. Right? 1s want to reform the world, but they also start to enjoy the world in this quasi-weird way for its messiness. And as they do that, it brings levity and acceptance to those around them. And so this perfection can turn into a perfection of community around them by accepting the mess in the world. So you see how that is? Like 1s, this is a really clear example for me. 1s like to reform the world to make it more perfect. Their tool is limited because in their quest for perfection, they start to make the world a lot more serious around them and a lot more critical around them. But as they start to accept something that their tool tells them they can't accept, which is messiness, then they start to form the real perfection they want, which is a perfection of community that has a levity, an enjoyment around them, but also an acceptance of other people. And it's just a beautiful thing what starts to happen when ones can do that. This is true for all types, so let's continue with the heart triad. The heart triad for twos, when they lean into the attention that they give to themselves and the attention they receive from others, twos start to find their quote-unquote true self. And they start doing things truly altruistically for the sake of other people. Twos have this ability to fool themselves and fool others that they are doing things for other people when they're really doing it for themselves. They don't believe that they can be loved, and so they do these things to earn that love. Kind of a classic Christian problem, right? But as they lean into the reality that they're lovable no matter what, and that they can love themselves, and as they start to learn through experience with other people that they are loved, even when they're not doing things for other people, then they kind of let that go and they start really doing things for other people in a much more powerful, impactful way, because it's no longer about what they need. They're getting that. They're doing things for what other people truly need. Threes, when they start leaning into pause. I sometimes debate what's the hardest thing, and all of them are difficult. All of them, if we're talking about scale, we're maybe at 9.9 for most of us, and maybe somebody actually gets to 10 as being hard and difficult for people. Threes have a really hard time with pause. They are anxious and fidgety when they're not able to do things. But if they give themselves pause and they receive that affirmation in the pauses that they're good and valuable and worthwhile, threes start to find peace and value in themselves and especially in others for who they are. See, part of the struggle with a three is because they find value in what they do, they want other people to do that as well. And when they don't, they can be kind of critical. Or at the very least, they can start to see that they're not supporting them in what they're trying to pursue as threes. But when they pause, they can start to become comfortable with stillness, which is like the three's worst enemy. But as they're still, they start to value themselves. And they start to realize that others value them even when they're still. And as they do that, they can start to pour that into other people as well. Finally, in the heart triad for fours, when they lean into patience given to them by others, and as they start to validate themselves, because remember, fours, they need to work on themselves probably more than any other type. They can't receive validation from others as well as they can receive it from themselves. But as they start to do that, fours start to process, or rather see the process of uniqueness being developed as a process of perfection. Let me say that again. As fours lean into the patience given to them by themselves and others, they start to see the process of their development as being perfect. And so they're not necessarily interested in making sure that they're unique every step along the way, but that the process of development, personal, relational, professional, spiritual, that is perfect as it is. That it is unique to everyone's story, and that is wonderful. And then they start to see how their journey is different than others, but most especially that the journey of others is unique and beautiful and wonderful all on its own. Finally, the head triad for fives. When they lean into self-care and the care given to others, fives start to turn their efforts to help others be more enabled, empowered, and equipped to take on the world. Fives have an ability to learn unlike any other type, and when they are able to take care of themselves and receive care, then they can turn that gift onto other people and help them learn to be able to do more than they thought possible. Fives are the greatest teachers, even if they're not in the teaching profession. Fives, when they're healthy and when they're taking care of themselves and being taken care of, they will be healthy. They will be world-changing teachers. Sixes, when sixes lean into their voice and knowing that their voice is valuable and encouraged by others when that voice is spoken, sixes start to give more of themselves to create community and peace. And sixes can be a different kind of leaders than the eights and the threes, if you will. Sixes can be communal leaders. In other words, they bring communities together with their power, with the nines in the group as well, to bring about something that works well for everybody in a peaceful and conflict, not avoidant, but conflict resolution kind of way. Sixes can do that the more that they lean into their own voice. And finally, sevens, when they lean into their seriousness, sevens start to discover how everything around them works. They experience it because they're experiential. They're not as focused on how they think through things. They experience them and then process them. But they start to discover how everything works together, and then they can start to enthusiastically help others see the same thing in a brand new and wonderful way. They start to help people be amazing in whatever they're doing. The classic example of this is that they lift the mood of everybody in the room because they're not so much focused on making themselves feel good and making themselves feel entertained. They're more interested in helping everybody else feel those feelings, feel the joy of life, and to think that life is just wonderful and bring up the atmosphere in the room. The relational health that comes from the Enneagram is a beautiful and wonderful thing. And this shows the wholeness that comes from intentionally utilizing the Enneagram, learning about our types, our triads. But wholeness only comes when we can live for others and with them. It's crucial that wholeness does not happen by ourselves. That is the great myth of personalities, is that we can achieve wholeness on our own. In fact, we cannot. The Enneagram helps us accomplish this by discovering our background noise, our type, and our strengths, but also our need for other people. And with all these in place, we get to explore even further the depth of our relationships as they highlight the wholeness that can be found through interdependence. This is the joy of the Enneagram. I hope that it's been exciting. I want to put up on the screen for you my email. If you have any questions about the Enneagram, if you want to explore it more, if you want to work on some one-on-one coaching, we can do that. We also are going to be offering some coaching through our Pastors for Pastors. So if you're a part of that, just make mention of it if it hasn't already been brought up, and we'll start to include that as well. But I want to be here to help you in your self-discovery, but most especially so that you can discover the wholeness that God has given to you in community with the body of Christ, but also with everyone in your life that can help fuel not only who you are, but how you are together in this wonderful world.